Hello, today I'll be going over 9.2, which is graph and write equations of parabolas. So the general equation of a parabola is x squared plus 4p equals y. If x is squared, then the graph will open up or down. There's a point called the focus, which is going to be at 0p, and the directrix will be at y equals negative p, and the axis of symmetry is at x equals 0. The other equation we can have is when y is squared. If y is squared, the graph will open left or right depending on the sign, and the focus will be p0. The directrix is x equals negative p, and the axis of symmetry is y equals 0. So here we have an example when we have x squared equals 4y. The graph is going to open up because the number is positive and x is squared. The focus is going to be at 1, 0, 0, 1, and the directrix is at y equals negative 1. And the other case, when we have y squared equals 4x, since this is positive, it's going to open to the right. The focus is going to be at 1, 0, and the directrix is at x equals negative 1. Okay, so first we want to graph the equation, identify the focus, directrix, and axis of symmetry of the parabola. Okay, I don't know why the formatting got a little weird, but number 1 is negative 2y equals x squared. So since this is negative, that means it's going to open down. And we have to first figure out what 4p is. So we're going to look at the number in front of what's not squared, so the y. So we have negative 2. So that means 4p equals negative 2. And then we want to solve for p. So we're going to divide by 4. And we get p equals negative 1/2. So we can use this to plug it in to find the focus and directrix. For the focus, it's going to be at 0, negative 1/2. The directrix is going to be at y equals 1/2. So for the focus, the sign will be the same, and for the directrix, it'll be the opposite sign. And the axis of symmetry is going to be at x equals 0, since x is squared. So we can plug in some points to solve for x and y. So we know the vertex is going to be at 0, 0. All of the problems that we do in this section will start at 0, 0. If we plug in negative 2 for y, we will get negative 2 times negative 2 equals x squared. So we get 4 equals x squared, and that means x equals plus minus 2. So when y is negative 2, we have negative 2 for x and positive 2 for x. So this is our graph. And we found that the focus is at 0, negative 1/2, so that's going to be right here. The focus should always be inside the parabola, no matter which way it's facing. So that's the focus. And the directrix is going to be at y equals 1/2. So it's going to be a line right here. And the directrix will never cross the parabola, so that's how you can also check that it's correct. Okay, for number 2, we have negative y squared equals 18x. So first we actually want to get y squared by itself. So here's the original equation. In order to do that, we have to divide by negative 1. So we get y squared equals negative 18x. We can look at the number in front of what's not squared, so the x, which is negative 18, and that's what 4p will equal. So then we're going to solve for p, so we can plug that into the equations to find the focus and directrix. that means p will equal negative 9 over 2. So for the focus, that means it's going to be negative 9 over 2, 0. This is going to open to the left because y is squared, and it's negative. P is negative. Okay, and the directrix is going to be at x equals 9 over 2. And the axis of symmetry is at y equals 0. So we're going to start at 0, 0. And I want to plug in a point for x that will make the number a perfect square so that I can square root it. So I'm going to choose negative 2 because 18 times negative 2 will equal 36. So that means we have y squared equals 36. And then we can square root both sides and we'll get y equals plus minus 6. So that means when x is negative 2, the y values are 6 and negative 6. And this graph is opening to the left. Okay, so now we're going to plot our focus, which is at negative 9 over 2, 0. So that's negative 4.5. This is the focus. And the directrix is going to be a vertical line on the other side. So that's going to be at 4.5. X equals 4.5. Sorry, I don't know why it's not drawing all the way. Okay. And there's our directrix. Okay, next we want to write the standard form of the equation of the parabola with the given focus and vertex at 0, 0. So, since we have a number in the x coordinate, that means it's opening left or right. And since it's positive, that means it's going to open to the right. And that also means we're going to have y squared. So this number 2 is our p-value. So we know p equals 2. And we can plug this into the equation. Y squared equals 4p times x. So we can plug in 2 in for p. So we'll get y squared equals 4 times 2x. So that means y squared equals 8x. And this would be our equation. Okay, next we have the point 0, negative 6 as our focus. And this is going to open down. So our vertex is at 0, 0, and 0, negative 6 is below that, and that'll kind of tell you the way or the direction that the parabola will open. So since it's going to open down, that means it's going to be x squared. So we also know that p equals negative 6, and we're going to plug it into the equation where x is squared. So it's going to be x squared equals 4py. And we're going to plug in negative 6 in for p. So x squared equals 4 times negative 6y. So that means x squared equals negative 24y. Okay, next we want to write the standard form of the equation of the parabola with the given directrix and vertex at 0, 0. So this time we kind of have to think like opposite, if that makes sense. So since we know that here, let me draw a graph, it might be a little easier to see. We know the vertex is going to be here, and y equals negative 7 is going to be down here somewhere. So that means our graph has to open up because it won't cross or touch the directrix. It's always going to be in the other direction. So we know that it opens up. And since it's opening up, that means x is going to be squared. this number, -7, is going to be negative p. So we know negative p equals -7. And that means p is going to equal 7. And we can plug this into the equation where x is squared. So x squared equals 4py, and we're going to plug in 7 for p. So that means we get x squared equals 28y. Okay, and the last one, we have x equals 11. So here's a little chart again. Okay, here is our vertex. It's going to be at 0, 0. X equals 11 is going to be a vertical line somewhere over here. So that means our graph has to open to the left. So it's going to open left, which means it's going to be a y-squared equation. Again, this number is going to be negative p. So negative p equals 11. And then we can divide by -1. And we'll get p equals -11. And now we're going to plug it into the y-squared equation. So y-squared equals 4px. And we're going to plug in -11 for p. So y-squared equals -44x. Hold on, let me write that step. So 4 times -11x, so that means y squared equals -44.